Have you ever had trial class students mysteriously ghost you after a class? You've taught the very best trial class you possibly could, and you're really convinced they're definitely going to sign up, and then immediately afterwards, they just disappear. No responses to your messages, no sign up, no sales. And today, we're going to have the final session of the Trial Class Bootcamp, and we're going to be talking about what to do after the trial class, specifically how to follow up with parents, what kind of things are sent to them, and what to do if they don't reply back in terms of trying to keep in touch with them and trying to convert those leads into paying students. So welcome to today's live. If you're joining us live, please do let me know in the chat. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Let me know all the tech is working okay. Let me know what you're excited for. It's great to know who's joining us. If you're watching the replay, feel free to jump ahead maybe a minute or two. We're just going to get the tech set up and make sure everything's all working properly, so that real content will start in probably a minute or two. So let me just call up the chat. I can see the chat is still loading. That's always an interesting sign. Don't forget as well, if you haven't already, do check out the link in the video description where you can sign up for the bootcamp. I mean, this is the last session of the bootcamp, so you're not going to get any more email reminders, but it does mean that you'll get access to the links to all of the recordings and a whole bunch of free resources to help you with your trial classes. Those are all included if you register at the link in the description below. And I was also going to ask you if you guys have found these sessions helpful. I'd really appreciate it if you could just give this video a like and follow to help boost this kind of content up in the algorithm to help reach even more amazing teachers like you. So I'd really appreciate that while we're getting things started. Okay, who is joining us? Good, seeing some people tuning in. Hi there, Emma, great to see you. Really looking forward to today's session as well. Fantastic. Hi there, Katie, great to see you again. And Teresa, lovely to see you from Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Fantastic, teachers from all around the world tuning in today. No worries, Emma, if you can't make it always the end, that's totally fine. You can always catch up on the replay at any point in the future if you need to. But thanks for joining us while you can. And Michelle, hi there. And Tolly, hello, or Quintin, great, thank you for joining us. Michelle is saying it's all working fine. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to pull up my slides then. Looks like the chat and everything's all working okay. So as I was just saying in our quick warm-up, today's session is all about how to seal the deal, what to do after the trial class, how to follow up with parents or with students to help persuade them to actually sign up, because sometimes we've taught the most amazing trial class, and then they just never quite get round to purchasing. But of course, we really want to make sure that we give them that opportunity to learn with us. So that's what today's session is all about. As I've kind of already mentioned, this is session 3 of the bootcamp. So if you've missed anything, you should be able to catch the replays on the same YouTube channel if you do need to catch up. But for now, just tune in live, join today's session. You don't worry if you missed anything earlier on. If it is your first time here, hello, my name's Katie. I'm the director of Abridge Academy, and I've been an online teacher since 2013, kind of on and off here and there, and particularly focused on it, of course, when COVID happened and my classroom teaching all kind of got shut down, and that became then my full-time focus from then. I'm a qualified classroom teacher from the UK. I've taught in the UK, China, and Japan before, and of course online. And back in 2020, I co-founded an online ESL startup program. So I've got experience both as an independent teacher as well as working for companies, and of course, setting up and launching my own company and tutoring program as well. So hopefully that gives me some different kind of insights and suggestions that I can share with you guys about what really makes a successful trial class and what you can be doing in today's session after the trial class to make that trial successful. So I've got a quick question for you guys to kind of warm us up while we're getting started. Have you ever had a trial class student ghost you before? So you've taught a trial class, you got to the end, they're like, oh yes, this was great, thank you so much, really looking forward to more classes. And then you've sent them a follow-up message afterwards, hi, do you want classes? Hello, classes? Anyone? Classes? Hello? And they've just disappeared. I think we've all had that happen at some point, right? Let me know in the chat, yes or no, has this ever happened to you before? You had students just mysteriously ghost you? I'm going to move my face over here because I thought this was quite a cute gif of ghost student disappearing. Who's had this experience in the past? Quick look in the chat. Oh, Tanya's tuning in. Hi there, Tanya. Great to see you. And Alison. Thank you, Alison. Super excited as well. Fantastic. Emma's saying, yes, definitely. Okay, hopefully today's session is going to help you, Emma. I know we were emailing earlier about this as well, so really hope that today's session is going to be helpful for you. Katie saying several times, yeah, it happens to everyone. Mandy, ghost, yes or no. Emma saying even just people who inquire, yeah, even if they don't even get to the trial class stage, keep in touch with those leads because they've expressed an interest. Maybe right now is not the best time for them. Keep following up with those leads because at some point in the future, they may be more interested in your classes and you want to be able to help them out then. Teresa saying yes. Alison, especially when working for a VIP kid. Interesting. And actually, I think it was back in the first session I mentioned, I used to teach for a company called Powfish, and the child class conversion rates were absolutely terrible, horrendous. Those sort of companies often also struggled with child class students not converting, disappearing off. In fact, I would say it was almost harder for them because being a big kind of faceless company, they don't have that personal connection that we're able to have as independent teachers too. So yeah, don't feel like you're failing as a teacher if you've had students ghost you like this. It happens to everyone. It happens to these huge international companies too. I know there's plenty of teachers I see in the chat who I know have been teaching for a long time and know are incredible teachers, but it happens to the best of us. Okay, Fatma's tuning in. Great to see you. Tanya's saying, yes, poof, they disappear. Exactly. Which can be really quite sad when you put a hell of a lot of work into making your trial classes so amazing. Even ghosting before a trial, yeah. Something I really recommend doing is, I mentioned this, I think it was the first session as well, try and get them in that trial as quickly as possible while they still remember and they're still super keen, because that does help with preventing that. I'm saying, no, I didn't. Wow, share your secrets, because we'd all love to know. How have you managed to avoid any of these child class students mysteriously disappearing? Yeah, it can be a really big challenge. Comment here, oh yeah, I spend 5 to 10 minutes with them before we have a class, getting to know each other. They're super excited. I follow up afterwards. They express so much interest, but then poof, gone. Yeah, it's tough. Okay, so I can feel like many people here in the chat are kind of had the same experience at some point in the past. So yeah, that's the focus of today's session. This is session 3 of the Trial Class Bootcamp. As I kind of mentioned earlier, if you haven't already, you can catch up on the previous sessions if you missed those. The link is in the description to join the kind of email list, and you'll get sent an email where you get the links to all of the replays, as well as a whole bunch of free stuff as well. So in the first session, we talked about how to find the right kind of students. Second session, we talked about what to do in the actual trial class itself to make sure it sells. And then today, we're doing follow-ups for success, what to do after the trial class to make that trial class successful. So yeah, link is in the description if you would like to get replays of all of that, plus access to these amazing freebies that are currently on the screen. These are all totally free. You get a free placement test, 5 sets of free trial class teaching materials with built-in certificates, which are all automated and nice and pretty and beautiful looking, ready for your students to get straight away. And of course, also these feedback templates, which is something I'm going to be talking about a bit more today. So all of this free stuff, if you just click on the link in the description if you haven't already. Okay, enough promo. So coming back to today's topic, why do trial class students ghost you? We've all had this experience, except for Fatima, who's obviously an amazing teacher and somehow managed to avoid this. Why do students ghost you? So there's a few different reasons this happens. Firstly, it could just be they didn't like the trial class, okay? You're not going to be perfect for every single student. There's certainly a lot of things you can do before the trial class just to make sure you seem like a good fit. We talked about that in session 1, making sure you're interested in the kinds of classes that you're offering, the right kind of niche for you. Like if I've had people reach out to me before who've asked for like IELTS tutoring or something, I've just said no because I know I'm not going to be able to help them. So it might just be they're not a good fit. Or what's the fact you've got to know you and met you in person, you just don't click, and that's okay. It's going to happen occasionally. Second reason could just be that they're just not quite sure that you're the best teacher or the best program for them. So quite often parents will be asking multiple teachers. They want to have several trial classes with a few different teachers to get an idea of who's going to be the best fit. And sure, you were great, but were you the absolute number one best person possible in the entire universe to help their child? They're not quite sure yet. And it might just be that you haven't given them enough information on that as well. Like you haven't quite told them exactly what they're going to be doing in future classes. They're not quite sure it's going to be the perfect fit because you haven't really made that alignment super clear. So that's the one reason that they don't convert. Another thing could just be they're not ready to sign up right now. Again, maybe they want to try out some other teachers. Maybe their finances aren't in the best position and they want to wait a week or two. Or they're a bit busy. They've got a holiday coming up next week and they're going off on vacation. Sorry for you Americans. They're going off on vacation next week. So they don't want to buy classes right now. They're going to wait for a couple of weeks and then get back in touch. The risk there, however, is that they just forget. So we want to make sure we're following up and avoiding that situation. And finally, they might just not know how to purchase. It sounds like a really obvious thing, but I've spoken to teachers before and they've just been like, oh yeah, I didn't actually tell them where to buy. Like, I didn't send them the link. I just asked them, are you interested? Like, you got to tell them. You got to tell them how to make that purchase and make it as easy as possible. Talked a bit about that in the last session about what to do at the end of the trial class. That really helps a lot with quite a lot of this as well. But if you haven't had a chance to chat to the parents at the end of the trial class and do all that kind of in-person, face-to-face, salesy type stuff, these can all be things that might be going through the parents' mind as to why they're not yet ready to make a purchase. Okay, so key thing I want to focus on today, do not let your leads drift away, okay? They're not quite sure yet, or they just haven't quite got their credit card ready to make the purchase, or they're just thinking about their schedule. It's so easy for them just to forget, because as much as we think we are the most important person in the world sometimes, there's so many other things going on in their lives, and there's so many other things they're trying to organize and coordinate. It might just not be the biggest priority for them to sort out right now, and it gets forgotten. So don't let them get away. It sounds like I'm sort of, I don't know, some kind of scary police officer trying to arrest people or something. But like, I mean, don't let them just drift off. Try and do your best to keep them engaged and keep them interested and signing up for your classes. So I'm going to go straight into some useful suggestions that might help you with this. What can you do immediately after the trial class? We're going to dig into these in a lot more depth throughout today's session. Firstly, this is kind of obvious, but don't forget to send them some kind of positive and friendly thank you message. Send this as quickly as possible after completion of the trial class. I mentioned last time that when I schedule trial classes, my trial classes themselves are 25 minutes. But in my schedule, I've allowed myself an hour. So I'm going to give myself that half hour for the actual trial class and the chat with the parents or whatever. And I've still got another half hour afterwards where I haven't scheduled any more classes, if possible, where I can do this kind of follow-up and make sure I've sent them that message straight away. Because it just shows that you're putting them as a priority and you're really wanting to kind of keep engaged. If you disappear off to go teach other classes and it's several hours or even the next day before you send them a message, they might think you're just not a priority to you. So yeah, send them a positive, friendly thank you message of some kind. Thank you for joining today's class. I really enjoyed teaching Sally. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. It doesn't have to be too complicated, just something short and sweet and nice. Another thing I like to do is include some kind of screenshots from the class itself. It just helps, particularly if the parents haven't had the opportunity to sit with the child in the class, giving them a screenshot so they can see what the class environment was like, what kind of materials you're using. There's awesome ABridge Academy free lessons that you get to if you sign up at the link below, all those free materials that you've got, so they can see kind of what kind of teaching materials you've been using. They can see like their child smiling and looking happy in the class, things like the certificate and some feedback that you created at the end of the lesson, all of that kind of stuff. Send it through to them so they can see a sort of visual reminder of what your class was about. On the note of feedback, I really recommend sending detailed feedback after the trial class as well. Not just, they did great. Do you want classes? Tell them what they did well, tell them what they need to work on, tell them what your plan is to help their child make progress with whatever it was they struggled with. And I'm going to show you in a minute the much more detailed feedback template and learning plan that I use and that you get for free if you register at the link below, in order to kind of help communicate that more clearly to parents. And finally, make sure you send them the link to purchase. You don't have to be super pushy, but you can just say, if you're interested, here is the link for how you can purchase a package of classes. In that learning plan, by the way, make sure you mention in that what you're proposing they purchase. Like you tell them, I recommend you buy a package of 12 classes to start with, something like that. So then the link to purchase takes them directly to the thing you're recommending them to buy. Takes away any kind of decisions or things they have to think about. For me, I'm using Super Teacher for my students to purchase and book their classes, which makes it really easy for this link because I can just like copy paste my Super Teacher link to the package that I think they should buy, or like to my appointments page, and they can just click. They can see my calendar, they can see the package I think they should purchase, they can click through, they can buy, and it's all automated and it's super easy for them to use. So I do make sure like all of these things, try and do them as soon as possible after the trial class. Okay, just having a quick look in the chat. I see Emma's commenting, I understand the reasons, but I find it so rude when they ignore your message. Absolutely, and that's why I think like sending this kind of personal follow-up message, it's helping to build that kind of rapport with them, and hopefully you've also had the opportunity to speak to them in the trial class itself, so they can see you have a face, you have a real person who's talking to them, and that helps to kind of encourage them to actually reply back. But yeah, there will always be some people who just lack some politeness and don't respond. So hopefully some of these things, we're giving them like clear, actionable things you want them to do and clear things they can see. That's going to help them know what to respond to, if that makes sense. Okay. So I mentioned about this feedback and learning plan, and this is something I think really, really helps in terms of converting students from the trial class into longer term paying students. So as you can see kind of the picture behind me, and I can show you this template in more detail afterwards, but essentially on this feedback and learning plan, I've included detailed information on what they did in the trial class, the placement test that we did in the class and what result they got, where that placed them at according to the Age Academy curriculum, according to the CFR framework, what exams they might be working towards, that kind of thing, and really, really detailed feedback in terms of what they did really well in the class and things they need to improve upon. And then from that, I put together a customized learning plan that tells them, okay, this is what we're going to work on going forwards. They struggled with past tense grammar, so we're going to work on past tense grammar, right? Make it really obvious the link between this is the feedback from the trial class, this is what we judged, like where the student was struggling in the assessment, and therefore this is what we're going to do to help work on that. Link it in with the student's goals, make it really clear that you have taken on board what the parents were looking for. So if they told you before the class the child wants to pass a specific exam, then you're going to mention that in your learning plan and how they're going to get to the level they need to pass that exam within the set time frame. If they said that they want to work on speaking skills, highlight that in your learning plan. We're going to work on these specific speaking skills, how to respond more confidently to questions, or how to give more extended answers with extra information and longer sentence structures, something like that. And make sure as well in this feedback template you've got information about you as a teacher and why you are the best teacher for them, and of course how to contact you and how to book classes. All of that you want in this feedback and learning plan. I'm going to show you while I ramble on what these look like. Let me pull up first. Should have opened these in advance. That would have been more organized. Let me pull up in advance one of the placements tests. So one of the trial classes. Share screen. Share this tab. Okay, is that screen sharing okay? Okay, right. So last time I showed you the trial class materials. These are free. If you haven't checked them out yet, link is in the description. So after the trial class, if you scroll down to the bottom of the trial class page, in the downloads and links section, there's this post-class feedback and learning plan Canva template. I know it's not super obvious. I feel like I need to make it a bit more clear. But anyway, so click through on that link to get to the feedback and learning plan. It's a template on Canva. So you click on that, and it opens up with this template. It's editable. You just need a Canva, like a free Canva account in order to use this template. You don't need a paid plan. And all you do is click edit template, and what it's going to do is copy this template into your own Canva account so you can edit it and do what you want with it. So we're going to click, sorry, use template for new design, not edit. That's because I'm logged into my account. I can edit. You can't edit. So use template for new design. And it's going to save a copy into your Canva account. And now I'm just going to zoom in and just show you what's in this template. Actually, maybe if I show you another example that's complete, would that be more useful? Where should we start? No, let me just show you what it looks like first before you've started with anything. So zooming in, put my face somewhere out the way. There we go. Right. These feedback templates are customized for each trial lesson. So it's already pre-designed with the stuff for that relevant trial class in advance. So if you taught the level 2 trial class, the level 2 trial class feedback template is different to the level 5 trial class feedback template, right? They're customized according to the specific learning objectives, what is covered in each specific trial class. So make sure you click on the template that is underneath the trial class that you did with the student. If, by the way, you're not teaching with Age Academy materials, obviously everyone here thinks they're wonderful, I hope. Not that I'm biased at all. But if you're not teaching with Age Academy materials, feel free to keep watching and just take ideas from what's included here, because it's the basic concepts will apply according to any niche or whoever you're teaching. So essentially in this template, and it's all pre-made out for me, I can complete this template now in about 5 minutes. So I mentioned that after the trial class, I've given myself about half an hour or so to do all of this follow-up with the parents. This takes 5 minutes, and then I can send it straight through. So I start off with some information about the students, like their name, their age, what language they speak, what their goals are, what interests they have. This is stuff that you would have talked about either when messaging with the parents before the class, or in the very beginning of the class where you're kind of getting the kid to introduce themselves. You ask them what their hobbies are, what they're interested in learning about, what their goals are, that kind of thing. You can put that information in here. I just bullet point a few key things, not lots of detail. throat's getting sore. Okay. Next, I put in the placement test result. The placement test is out of 36 in total. But if you didn't do the full load of questions in the test, change this number to the number of questions you did. So, for example, if they only worked through the first 8 questions before they started making mistakes, put it out of 8, and let's say they got 5 out of 8, something like that, right? So you just put in the score they got out of the actual number of questions that they did. Top tip to make sure you get this correct, just take a screenshot of the placement test results page before you move on from the placement test, just so you've got that saved to refer back to at this point. It's automatically already filled out with the Cambridge Academy level, the CFR level, and what Cambridge exam it would relate to. You can edit these if you want to adjust it a little bit. So it might be that actually, although it is Cambridge Academy level 5, you actually think they did incredibly well in the placement test, so you want to adjust this to level 5 plus or something, or they struggled a bit with the actual trial class. Even though they tested at level 5, you actually want to move them down to level 4, you can just sneakily change that to 4. So you can adjust these a little bit. Then there's the actual feedback itself. And this is something that is really, really useful for kind of showing off your ability to assess the student's level and pick out exactly what they did well and exactly what you're going to work on going forward. So it's got a list of like some of the key learning objectives. These are phrased as what's often called can-do statements. It's how in school teaching, at least, we often use these for students just to rate themselves according to how they did in classes, right? So we use this a lot in schools. And then there's little stars next to it that you can fill out to show like how well they did. To make this a lot quicker, highlight all of the stars like this, then unselect the ones you don't want to fill out. So just unselect a few like this, where they struggled. So you only selected the ones you want filled in, and then you can change them all in one go by clicking colour at the top here. And then clicking yellow to fill in the colour. And now you see all of those stars were completed in like one click. That way you don't have to click on every individual star. So select all the stars you want to be filled and then click on the fill colour and change it to yellow. And that saves you a lot of time. Make sure, by the way, that you haven't given them full stars on everything. If you've given them full stars on everything, then you probably gave them the wrong trial class, okay? There should be something they need to work on. There's always some things they need to improve. So perhaps they struggled a bit with actually using the new words in sentences, or they were struggling to actually write things down. The speaking was great, but the writing was struggling a bit. This is the level 5 trial class template, by the way. The level 5 trial class does have a short writing section because it's a higher level one. So you can rate them according to all these different things. And you can see we've done this in, like 2 minutes? So it's super, super quick. And then you just keep scrolling down. There's an opportunity to write down strengths and areas for improvement, just a couple of bullet points. You can pick those out from the section above, or you can sort of write your own in more detail. Like maybe I had a student recently who did really well at sort of using their own examples when it came to making sentences. They didn't just use the set structures that were on the screen. They were able to extend beyond it a bit themselves and use anecdotes and insights from like their own experiences. So I might put that down as a strength, that they were able to adapt it to their personal sort of situation, what they wanted to talk about. And always areas for improvement. You don't have to have all 3, by the way. You can have like 1 or 2, but something really clear that you think they need to work on. Link that back if you can. So at the beginning here where we have the goals of what they're working towards. So the parent has told you they want to work on speaking skills. Try and focus more on the speaking skills in the areas for improvement, because there's no point telling them that they need to improve a lot on grammar if they specifically told you before the class they definitely don't want any grammar. They only want speaking practice. And if you start mentioning grammar here, they're going to think, oh, well, you didn't pay attention to what we said before the class, right? They're going to learn grammar in school. We want them to practice speaking practice. So always bear in mind what their goals are when you're putting together these sort of strengths and areas for improvement. I don't put loads of detail here. It's literally just a couple of bullet points and then a short sentence like, I really enjoyed teaching you. Your enthusiasm was great, blah, 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 something like that. Then the next bit is the learning plan. So something I think is super, super helpful and really important when it comes to making the sale is telling them what they're buying, okay? They're not just buying classes with you. They're buying this specific package of classes with you. This is exactly what they're going to learn. You're communicating to them the achievement they're going to get from your classes. People don't buy classes. People buy a result from the classes, right? They're taking the classes for a reason. Taking this class because they need to improve certain things or because they want to achieve a specific goal. So by having this learning plan here, you're making it really clear how by taking classes with you, this is exactly what you're going to teach them in order to achieve that specific goal. It's already pre-filled out with the general information about the relevant Cambridge Academy lessons, but you can customize and adjust this as much or as little as you wish, right? So for example, there's 60 classes per Abridge Academy level. But you might have decided that this student, in reality, they were kind of towards the upper end of this level, so we're actually just going to start halfway through it, and therefore there's only 30 classes left. Or you might decide to add in some extra classes from one of the other courses or other resources that you've got because you think they will benefit from, I don't know, more reading practice or something. Similarly, the classes per week, perhaps you know that they've got to pass this exam in 2 months' time. So if you have 60 classes to cover, then you're going to have, what would that be, like two, so I can't do maths off the top of my head, class every other day pretty much if you want to get through 60 classes within 2 months. So you'd have to change the number of classes per week, so like 4 or 5 if you know they've got the deadline is coming up for achieving this specific goal, perhaps. Again, always bear in mind what their goals are, what their parents told you beforehand. They might already told you they only want a certain number of classes per week, so just put that number in there, that kind of thing. Similarly, you can adjust things like the learning objectives. If they've told you they don't want to focus lots on grammar, just remove the comments about grammar, add more on the speaking skills, that kind of thing. Okay, I'm not going to give loads of detail, but you get the idea. And then finally, at the end here, there's the opportunity to put in information about you. This is really important because this document, they're going to save it, and maybe they're going to print it out, or they're going to save it on their phone or on their computer or something to come back to later, perhaps. And when they look at it later, they've forgotten which of the several teachers they were messaging sent it to them. And therefore, if they scroll to the bottom of the document, you want to make sure your name is on it so they know which teacher to reach out to and how to contact you to book the classes. So you can put in your name here, put in some information about you, customize that information to make it really relevant to that specific student. So if they want to focus on exam practice, then you can put in your teacher description about how you've helped a specific number of students pass that exam before, how you were a former examiner, something like that. Whereas if you had a student who said they're not interested in exams, they want to focus more on speaking skills, you might highlight here that you're a specialist in speaking practice or something, and you have like a neutral accent or whatever, or you've coached accent reduction, that kind of thing. Like make it tailored according to the student. And don't forget to put in contact details. The default options here just say email and phone, but you can change that according to how you want students to contact you. So it might be that you've got a website, so you can put in the website address. If you're using a system like Superteacher, which is amazing for like basically being your teacher website where you can list all your classes and people can purchase, put in your Superteacher link as a website. I would suspect most people don't want to be contacted by phone because international phone calls are quite expensive, but you might instead want to change that to say your WeChat ID if you're teaching Chinese students, that kind of thing. So just customize it, put in your photo here, that kind of customization. Okay, I'm rambling a lot. I just want to show you an example of what this actually looks like once you've done everything. This is just an example one. I don't want to put in like personal student information, so I just made this up as an example. But this is exactly how it would fill this out for a student. So you see here, we put in, student was called Nancy, age 11, native language is Chinese. Their goal is to study abroad at some point in the near future, but not immediately. So they want to focus on academic English and pass the A2 key exam. And they said that they're interested in basketball and reading books, specifically Harry Potter they mentioned as one they really love. This is good, by the way, because then when it comes to actually like teaching classes, you can refer back to this template yourself and remind yourself, oh yeah, they're really interested in books. So you can ask them in the class, what's your favorite book? Or if you ask them what they did last weekend or something, if it's a lesson when you're talking about sports, you can say, oh, Nancy, didn't you say you're interested in basketball? Do you play on any basketball teams? And it's showing that you've remembered them, even if it's actually because you made notes. So make notes of this useful stuff because it can link into what you do in future classes. I don't know why I've accidentally deleted the placement test result. It was there 5 minutes ago and it's gone. There was a box here with the result. I must have accidentally deleted it. Don't know how that happened. Anyway, so they'd had the results here. We've assessed how they've done. We've not given them full stars on every point. There's been a few things they do need to specifically work on here. And then I've actually used the translation tool. This is useful actually. On Canva, I can't remember where it was found now. It's under apps, I think. Apps, and then where was translate? It's definitely somewhere on here. There we go, translate at the bottom here. So you can translate the page into any language you want. So do this with the English page. Click translate, and you can translate it into, I don't know, let's pick one here. Croatian. Let's say your student is from Croatia, right? You can click here and it'll automatically translate the whole page into that language. You might need to tweak the formatting a little bit because like the word lengths and stuff are slightly different, so sometimes they go off the line a bit. But this is a really great way of letting you create this in their language so they can easily understand. So here, for example, I've then put it into Chinese for them because their native language was Chinese. so they can see it there. And then they've got the strengths, areas for improvement. As you can see, we focused here because this particular student did want to work on academic English and passing a specific exam. We've got here a bit of a focus on some grammar type things, improving spelling of irregular verbs and academic vocabulary base. Like those are the things to work on. I mentioned here, I really enjoy teaching in class. You engage really well with a non-fiction text about polar bears, and you're able to suggest some excellent ideas for saving the environment. It's a little bit of personal kind of comment. I look forward to helping you develop your spoken and written accuracy in order to better express these ideas in academic context in the future. So a little sort of personalized comment. This I don't think I even changed. It's just general information about what they're going to do. And this here, we've just put an example in because, as I said, I don't want to put up personal information all over the internet. But we've got here some example of the tutor and quick short bio about why they're a specialist, particularly in academic English skills, because that's what this particular student wanted to focus on. Picked out a few key metrics that prove they're an expert in teaching academic English. And then email and WeChat contact details. And then automatically translated into Chinese, ready to go. So you can see these templates. So I know I've shown this template a lot, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what kind of information I include in these. And I can do this in like 5 minutes or so to put this all together. I know it looks like a lot here, but a lot of it's already pre-filled out. So all you're having to do is just put in strengths to improve, short comments. This, by the way, once I've done it once with one trial class student, I then just copy paste the same information across to the other ones and then just tweak it a little bit. So it's all quite quick and easy to do. That's the goal with these templates. And then all you have to do when you've done all of that, let me move my face out of the way. In the top right corner, it says share, and there's a download button, and you can download it as a PDF, and then you send it through to the parents via however you normally communicate with them. Whew, okay, that was a lot of talking. So hopefully I gave you some ideas as to what you can do with these templates and how I like to follow up after the trial class. I found these really, really helpful. And I've genuinely had parents message say, wow, that was super helpful feedback. Thank you so much for that detailed feedback. It really shows that you're a great teacher who is sort of understanding what my student needs. They've literally said that to me in messages after trial classes, saying that they've genuinely found this helpful as kind of a proof that I'm good at what I do, which is great to hear, even though it didn't actually take that much work or effort to do. Okay, talked a lot. Let's have a look at the comments and see what everyone's been saying. Tanya's commenting, I think it's about super teacher. I've had some adult students struggle with registering. Yeah, I think the key thing is that there's the button in super teacher to change it into their native language. Makes it a lot easier in terms of figuring out how to get through the process. When it comes to registering, the only issue I found some students have is they don't realize they have to verify the email address. So I've had to kind of send them a reminder saying, once you've put in your details and click register, you need to go to your email account, open up the email, click confirm email address, and then it works. But yeah, I've had a few things like that. This is one of the reasons why I do that at the end of the trial class. I screen share the Super Teacher website and I show them exactly how to go about creating an account. And if I'm doing it in Koala Go, they can actually do it face to face with me, like depending on how on board the student is at that point. But if the parent is already like ready to purchase kind of vibes, I'll say, okay, I've got to open in the code browser right now. Put in your email address right now. Like I'll get them to type it in on the screen. And I'll say, make a password right now. Put it in. Pick your location on the list. Right, sorted. Click confirm. Now can you have a look at your emails and click the confirm button, please? And they say, oh yes, I'll go check now. And they'll click on the open on their phone and they'll click confirm. And I say, great, now it's working. So I've sometimes actually worked with them in the trial class itself to create their account, like in those few minutes at the end when I talk to the parents. Otherwise, yeah, you just have to remind them to check their email address, their email account to verify their email address. That's the kind of sticking point some students have had. But it's a security thing because, you know, they need to confirm that they own the email address that they're using. Okay, Alison saying, I think some parents figure out they're going to have to say no and don't know how to do it. Maybe a reason they ghost. I think this is also a cultural thing because in some cultures it's kind of considered rude to say no. So rather than saying no, they'll just ignore you. And that's considered politer than saying no. Whereas in British culture, like I'm from the UK, and I think it's also quite similar in America, it's considered rude the other way around, right? It's considered rude to ignore someone and it's polite to say no in a polite way, like no, but thank you. So yeah, it can also be a cultural thing like that. But that's why I think, you know, doing your best to talk to the parents at the end of the trial class and following up these kind of information afterwards can really help if they're still a little bit unsure. It can help just kind of move them over that line of making a decision. Alison, I've had parents who realise partway through our meeting that the price is too much. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, actually, because I've got some suggestions that's going to help you with this, Alison, on pricing, what to do if the parent says the class is too expensive, because there's a few different approaches you can take. It doesn't mean that there's no chance of you being able to help them. It might be that you suggest a slightly different thing for them rather than one-on-one classes, or it might be there's a different approach you might take to that conversation. I can show you that in a minute, though. So hold that in mind, because that's, I think, a really big challenge for a lot of parents. They get a bit nervous about kind of actually talking to you directly of. Alice is saying, is your feedback sheet going to be in Canva for us, editable in Canva? Yes, yeah. So when you click on the link at the bottom of the trial class, so on the Able Academy website, you've got the trial class lesson slides. Scroll down and you've got, let me show you. Here. So we've got the trial class lesson slide. So immediately after a trial class lesson, just scroll down to the downloads and links section. This bit here that says post-class feedback and learning plan Canva template. It's a template. So when you click on it, it gives you the option then to make a copy in your own Canva account, and then it's fully editable by you, like you own it. It's within your account. So yeah, it's fully customizable and editable by you. So it's set up as a template on Canva. Okay. Angel's saying, is there a way to test if they're higher than A2? So at the moment, the Able Academy lessons, they're designed for pre-A1 up to A2 level. By the way, what some people call A2 and what is actually A2 according to the CFR framework and actually some of the exams can be quite different. So I've had students say, oh yes, my parents will say, oh, my kid's really advanced, and then we do the test and they test at like A1 level. I'm like, well, they are, they're advanced for their age, but that's still A1. There's a lot of English still to learn. But yeah, so it's worth kind of getting a bit of an insight as to where exactly they are. So the test might still help you if they're kind of borderline A2 to B1 level. If they're higher than that, like they're definitely sort of B2 or above or something, then unfortunately, yeah, the Able Academy placement test is not currently suitable for that level because the core curriculum doesn't go up beyond that level yet. There are other exams you can find online, though. If you look on the Cambridge website, they have some placement tests. They're not particularly nice looking. They're not super fancy or interactive or anything, but it's a quick quiz that you can do in your trial classes, or you can design your own kind of quick quiz or assessment on that according to your niche and your specialism. Something I found with more advanced students is that they tend to have like a really specific reason for learning English by that point. So it's a little bit more difficult to have like general trial classes or general placement tests because they're working on like academic English or English for science specifically, or English for business meetings. Like they have a really particular goal in mind, and that means that the content of your trial class and what you're going to teach going forward will really vary a lot between students. Obviously, you try and find a bit of a niche, so you have students who are all in the same kind of category there. But yeah, that's why the Able Academy lessons don't currently go up to that sort of level yet. Okay, question here from Quentin. Here is my headache. I feel you. When I tell them to take 50 plus classes to improve, they say the other teacher will get them to A2 level or B2 level in 2 weeks, then they run to them. The thing is, like the other teacher will tell them to get them in 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks' time, they're suddenly going to realize they're not at that level yet, and they're going to come back to you. That's kind of how I like to think about it. I think it's important to be honest with parents and realistic, rather than sort of promising like a promise you can't achieve. It might be that they're not going to want to purchase a big package of say 60 classes to start off with. You don't have to say that this learning plan is going to get them to that final point. You could say, I think we're going to start off with this, and I recommend you start off with a package of 12 classes, and you can put in 12 at this point here. And then you might want to tweak what's in the learning objectives because they're not going to cover all of that. But you can say, this is my initial learning plan and what we're going to start on, and then we're going to reevaluate and put together a plan again next month as to what to focus on to make sure you're hitting those targets. So it might be that you adjust things, accordingly. I found a lot of the parents that I work with, they like to have a longer term goal. I'm not working on short term goals really with students. I don't do like short term like exam prep, that kind of thing. So usually students are looking for a teacher who's going to be with them for a year or two anyway. So they're interested in knowing that longer term plan. But again, it depends on who you're working with and what your students are looking for. But yeah, and if they've said another teacher's going to get them there in 2 weeks, send them a message 2 weeks later. How are things going? Have you got to B2 level yet? Phrase it like maybe a little bit more politely than that, but you know what I mean. Like follow up with them and ask how things are going with the other teacher. If they've kind of expressed that sort of sentiment and then disappeared, that would be my suggestion there. But yeah, and you can tell them like if they say that kind of message to you, you can say, "I want to be honest with you. Being totally honest, it's very difficult to make that kind of progress in 2 weeks." In terms of actual English progress. You may be able to get a certain exam result in 2 weeks by memorizing the answers to exam questions, but you're not going to get your English to the level that you need. So I imagine B2 level, maybe it's something they need to do well, like a specific exam to go study abroad or something. They've got a particular goal, right? There's a reason they need to get to B2 level. So they want to be moving to an English medium school. So you can say to them, okay, maybe the other teachers in 2 weeks can get you the result you need in the exam, but when you get to that new school, you're still going to struggle because you're not actually at A2 level. You just memorize how to pass the exam. What I promise to help you with is actual academic English to be able to use English in an academic context once you move to that school, because you're actually going to be at B2 level. So you might be, phrase it in ways like that. I'm rambling. I'm not sure if that helps. Maybe give you a few ideas. Tanya's saying, so I can't see the link to the Canva template on Abridge Academy. So go to the trial class. So, we had the placement test. After the placement test, it then links you to the trial class slides. So you should see level something, like level 1, level 3, level 5, whatever, trial class. Scroll down after the trial class. It's at the bottom here in the downloads and links section. Post-trial class feedback and learning plan. That's where you find this Canva template. Because they're customized for each trial class, it was hard to figure out where to put the link so that it links to that specific trial class. So yeah, apologies, that's where it is. It's in the downloads and links section under the trial class specifically. Emma's saying, brilliant, bring me the trial class students. I'm all set. Awesome, fantastic. Emma's saying, how would you adjust the trial classes for group classes, and would you do a feedback and learning plan for every individual child in a group class? That's a really great question, actually. So I know in the very first session of this bootcamp, we talked about different approaches to trial classes, and then I proceeded to ignore most of those and just talk about one-on-one trials, because that's going to be honest, that's what I've mostly focused on myself. But yeah, when I've had group programs, depends slightly on how you've done it. So imagine you've got a group class that's already ongoing and you had a student join for a one-off class, like join an existing group for a one-off thing. Then you can kind of treat it in the same way as these one-on-one classes, in the sense of following up that one individual student, if that makes sense. So they've just joined in for one-off session with a group that was an ongoing group. Then send them a personalized message, send them the feedback, that kind of thing, same as you would with the trial class, like one-on-one trial classes. If you've done a large group and you've had, 5 or 6 students all in one group and they're all new students, it's a trial class for a whole group, you could try and send each individual student feedback if that's something you feel confident doing, or you could send a message to the group as a whole and send more general feedback to the group as a whole. One thing I would say that in group classes, it is slightly more difficult to customize if the plan is to continue with group classes going forward, you're trying to sell them a group class program. It's a little bit difficult to have really, really customized individual learning plans when they're going to be studying in a whole group going forwards, right? So it might actually be more helpful to say to the whole group, we all got on really well, I was really impressed with all this stuff. If you all want to continue, this is the plan of what we're going to do going forward, and do it as a sort of group feedback. So yeah, you can kind of adjust the concepts according to the trial class situation. Tanya's saying, found it, thanks, awesome. Tanya's saying, students are so interested in long term. Yeah, I had a student ask if I could teach his daughter when she turns 5. She's currently 16 months old. Amazing. Yeah, and parents do want that. Like, sometimes as teachers, we think too short term. We think, oh yeah, because parents only want to buy a short package of classes of 1 or 2 months worth at a time. We start thinking short term points of view, but actually students really love having a teacher who's going to be with them longer term, because they build that rapport with you, you build that relationship, they get to trust you and love taking classes with you. So they do want classes for a longer period of time than just a few months. Most students are looking for like 1, 2, 3 years or even longer. If you're a good teacher, they want to keep you. That's kind of the general vibe I've got from parents. So yeah. Okay, right. I've shown you a lot about these feedback and learning plan templates. Thank you for all those amazing questions. But that was actually the first part of today's presentation, so apologies, that overran massively so far. So this is one of the things I send to parents after the trial class. Send them a short thank you message, and then I send them this feedback and learning plan. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of where to start with that. But that leads on to the next question. What do you do if they don't reply? So you sent them that personalized message, you sent them this feedback and learning plan, you sent them a link to purchase, you've done all that stuff that we mentioned. Should I put up that list from earlier? Let's start with that list. All of these amazing things, you've sent them positive message, screenshots from class, feedback and the certificate. That's the end of the trial classes, by the way, the certificate. Take a screenshot at the end of the class. That learning plan proposal I just showed you for ages, and then your link to Super Teacher or whatever it is that you're hosting your booking system. Where can they purchase classes? Send them the direct link to make that purchase. So you've done all of that, and then they haven't replied. What do you do next? Let me know in the chat if this has happened to you and what you've done with parents who just haven't responded at all to that message. When they haven't responded, they haven't even said thank you. Like, they just completely blanked you. What do you do next? Have some more water while you guys chat. What do we do if they don't reply? I've stumped everyone. By the way, there is like a 20-second delay between me asking a question and then YouTube actually like streaming it to you guys, and then for you guys to reply back as well. So if there's like awkward pauses, it's because of this delay between the video actually streaming. Unfortunately, it's a bit inconvenient. It's some kind of YouTube safety thing, I think. So what do you guys think we should do if they don't reply? Should we just ignore them and wait for them to come back to us in their own time? Probably not, right? Okay, Katie's saying, I make a note in my calendar to check in a few days later and again a month later if they don't reply. Exactly, we've got to follow up. That's the really key thing here. We want to follow up with those leads to make sure they haven't completely forgotten you. Tanya's saying, off to answer any questions they might have had. I love that one, actually. That's a really great, friendly way of responding. You know, do you have any questions at all? Is there anything I can help with? Rather than, why haven't you purchased? There's a little more of a polite way of kind of inquiring. That's a fantastic suggestion, definitely. You want to try and gently follow up with them, and make sure that you don't forget them as much as they don't forget you. And you're saying, Angel's saying, send a follow-up message once or twice with a question. Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, it's kind of what I put here, basically. Follow up with them. The next day, I usually give them a day. But then I'll follow up the day later saying, have you got any questions? Is there anything you'd like me to help with? That kind of thing. Pretty much exactly what you guys were saying in the chat, asking if they've got any questions, anything you can help with. And again, a couple of days after that, they still haven't followed up, give it another couple of days, maybe wait till the weekend when they might be less busy or something, and send them another message. And then 5 days or a week later, another follow-up message. I don't mean harass them with like endless messages along the same lines. I just mean polite messages. Oh, is there anything I can help with? And a bit later, oh, how is Sally's studies going? I know in class she mentioned she's got something happening this weekend. So did you enjoy the sports match or something? So follow up with sort of personalized questions that relate to things that they've mentioned that they might be doing. Again, that's why it's helpful to get to know your students at the beginning of the trial class, and sort of gently prompt them to think a bit more and let you know if they've got any questions, anything they're not sure about. Katie's saying, also send holiday messages, don't even remind them that I'm here. Absolutely, yeah. So keep in touch with them too. If they keep ghosting you, you can still add them if you've got like a group chat or something, or you've got some kind of community hub. If you're using like Facebook, you might have a group on Facebook or something for all of your students. You can invite them to join that kind of a thing. Like keep in touch with them through a more informal or less sort of high pressure environment, and send like holiday messages, that kind of thing, because it's just showing that you're being friendly. Cool. Okay, so yeah, I follow up, ask if they've got any questions. I also offer some alternative options. So if they get to the point where I can tell that they weren't quite, what I tried to offer wasn't quite what they were looking for, I might then suggest some alternatives. Particularly they ask some questions that kind of imply that actually maybe my pricing is too high, or maybe they want a different kind of class frequency to what I propose in the learning plan. Like, so I might offer an alternative. I had a student recently who they did the trial class, and I'm going to be honest with you, I messed up a bit with the placement test. So I put them at too low a level. It's not that I messed up, but you know, the student was a little bit shy, so they struggled to answer questions because they were shy rather than because they didn't actually know the answer. And maybe I was in too much of a rush. I don't know. I didn't quite get it right. So I ended up placing them at level 2. And after the trial class, I was like, oh, they did really well in this. Like, I probably shouldn't have should have adapted this. I was kicking myself afterwards, like I did a too easy a class. That was definitely the wrong level for them. So, and the parents didn't reply straight away to my message. So I sent them a follow-up saying, I know in the trial class, I think the level might have been a little bit too easy. May I suggest we have another trial class and we're going to do a higher level class? I think we should try again at a higher level. Because I think the student, she was struggling perhaps because she felt a little bit shy and nervous in the class, and therefore I didn't get an accurate measure of her level. And the parents immediately replied back saying, oh yeah, we'd love another trial class, thank you. And yes, it did mean I had to give them another trial class, not ideal. But after that trial class, they bought within half an hour. So sometimes being a little bit flexible and trying to think about how can you kind of offer them something that's going to help them make that decision a bit easier can help. Because I think they figured, oh, maybe I don't teach like high enough level classes for their kid. I'd also mention like this idea of applying sort of gentle pressure, little things like, oh, my schedule's filling up and I really want to make sure you have an opportunity to book a class. Because you mentioned you want classes on Friday afternoons and I've only got a couple of slots left on Fridays. Just, please let me know if you're still interested, and I'm sure we'll figure something out. Something like that. And then finally, ask permission to keep in touch. So if they say to you they're not ready yet or they just don't reply, you can just ask them, is it okay if I follow up with you again in a few months' time? Or they've mentioned they're gonna try things out with another teacher. Perhaps you can say, is it okay if I drop you a message a couple of weeks just to see how things are going, and whether I might be still an option for you to consider. So some kind of polite request for permission to keep following up, because that way you can keep reaching out to them without it feeling like you're bothering them. Okay, so let's go back to some of those comments people said earlier about, sorry, it's too expensive. These kind of common, sometimes these are referred to as objections, these common reasons that people give for not purchasing. Um, so if they ask, if they say it's too expensive, can you give me a discount? What do you respond with? Here are a few ideas. Feel free to take a screenshot of these ideas for your future reference because it might be helpful. Firstly, you could propose a cheaper class format. So if you're someone who does group classes, you could say, okay, one-on-one class is a bit too expensive, but if you sign up for a group class, it's half the price, and offer them that option. You could also propose to them, this is something that I've done before, where a student said it's too expensive. I haven't got a group that's going to be suitable for them, but I'll say to them, if you find a friend who's a similar level to you to join the class with you and form your own little mini group, just the two of you or 3 students, then you can split the class cost between you. That will work out cheaper. And that's quite a successful way of getting them to get a big discount for themselves without you losing out on any of that money. So some kind of cheaper format of class could be one option. I personally don't like to give discounts. Some people do, but you could offer a discount if you wish, depending on how you've structured your pricing as to whether that's going to be feasible for you. It also depends a bit on what your price is at and how busy you are as to whether that's going to be feasible. Another thing you might want to offer is some kind of bonuses or extra resources. So they might say, oh, the price is a little bit too high because we're also having to budget for all the other costs associated with English learning or something. You can be like, oh, but I'm going to include a whole bunch of free materials for you. And this is another thing that's really great with Superteacher. Not that I'm selling Superteacher. I don't work for Superteacher, okay? I think it's just an awesome platform. On Superteacher, you can create like a self-paced course where you can create a whole bunch of learning resources and things for them. Like maybe you've created some games on Wordwall. You've got, like with Abridge Academy, you've got all the workbooks and the flashcards and all these extra support materials. You can collate all of that into a kind of resource library on Superteacher. And you can say to your students, of course, I totally appreciate that English learning is expensive. My classes are towards the upper end because I'm going to include all these extra bonuses for you. You don't need to tell them you're going to include it anyway. I'm going to give you all of these extra learning games, extra practice activities, homework with feedback and flashcards for you to practice the vocabulary at home, blah, blah, blah. List out all this cool stuff you're going to include. And that way they can see that, okay, they're not just paying for your classes, they're paying for a whole package of stuff that's included too. So that can be another way to help persuade them that your classes are worth, the price that you're asking. Another negotiation kind of option could be to suggest a reduced class duration or frequency. So if they kind of look at fixed budget per month, like they only want to spend $200 a month, okay, and you are proposing that you're going to have 3 classes a week, and 3 classes a week at say $20, $25 or something per class, that is going to add up to considerably more than their budget. So you might say to them, okay, I appreciate that can be challenged to factor this into your monthly expenses. How about rather than having 3 classes a week, we just have 1 or 2? That way it's a bit more affordable. And outside of class time, you can still do all of that extra practice, so they're still making progress. Similarly, you might want to reduce the class duration. So maybe you were originally suggesting 45-minute classes because that was probably the best fit for that student. But pricing-wise, it's going to be too difficult for them to pay for 45 minutes. You could say, well, let's go down to a 25-minute class. We're not going to cover quite as much, but it can be more affordable because in your head, you're only budgeting for like half an hour of your time. Whereas I don't know if does this, but for me, like if I've got an hour, a 45-minute class, in my head, that's an hour, if that makes sense, because by the time I've wrapped up the class, sent the feedback, gone to the bathroom or something, it's got up to the hour time anyway. So you could propose like a different length of class. Another option, this is kind of different to what I was saying about reduced frequency, but you could just suggest buying a smaller class package. They might not have the funds right now in their bank account to purchase 60 classes. So if you put on your learning plan 60 classes and you wanted them to purchase that straight away, you could say to them, okay, let's not go for the big class package. How about you sign up for 8 classes? Like 2 classes a week for 4 weeks for the first month, 8 classes. Is that affordable for you now? Is that manageable? Rather than saying affordable, like you just say, is that something you can do? And in that way, you're giving them something that's a little bit lower cost, and they might then think, okay, 8 classes. Let's say it's sort of easy numbers. $25 times 8 would be $200, right? $200 they probably have in their bank account. That's manageable. Whereas if you're proposing 60 classes, that's like nearly 10 times that. And that's when you start getting into the thousands of dollars. They need to really budget for it. So yeah, smaller class package to start with. Even just offering, like, they can buy 1 or 2 classes. Some teachers, some parents do just want that flexibility. And then the final option I put here, as I said, I don't personally really like doing discounts, but I do discounts when it comes to a class package. So you could say to them that if they buy a larger package of classes, it's kind of the opposite to the one above about smaller class packages, but you could say that if they want to bring the cost of an individual class down, they could buy a larger package and you're going to give them a slightly bigger discount. That could be another thing to consider. So yeah, there's a few different suggestions that you can do if they're saying the price is the challenge for them. Now, some parents won't directly say that the price is too expensive because, like, money can be a difficult thing to talk about, particularly in some cultures. But if they sort of start saying, oh, we're not quite sure, that kind of thing, you can say, how about if I can offer you an option that's at a more affordable price, and see what they say to that, because that can be something to consider. Okay, I'm rambling a lot. Does this help? Let me know in the chat if this is helpful for you, if you've had parents before say that classes are too expensive and what you've done that's helped with that as well, because it's always interesting to hear from fellow teachers too. Let me know if these are helpful. While you let me know about that, I'm just going to move on to the next thing as well, which is about being busy. This is the other big kind of objection I have sometimes from parents. They'll say, I really like the class, but it's going to be difficult to fit into our schedule. Or sorry, we're too busy, or we can only do this specific time. I'm not sure it's going to work out. My kids got too much homework at school at the moment, so it's going to be hard to fit things in. And you're like, well, the thing is, they reached out to me for classes previously, so they're not really too busy. They can find the time for it. It's only a couple of hours a week at the most. But what can you do to kind of persuade them that it's worth the investment of time into your classes? And again, more suggestions on the screen here. Please do feel free to take a screenshot for future reference. So the first thing I recommend you can suggest is something that's more flexible, has a lower hours kind of learning schedule. Kind of what we said earlier with the price being too high, same kind of concept can work for the time cost being too high, right? Rather than 3 classes a week, can you do 1 class a week? Is that more manageable? Another option could be to suggest that you're going to do less work outside of class time. I've had some students who just don't have, it's not they don't have the time, but they don't have the self-discipline perhaps to do homework outside of class. So I would suggest to them that instead of me setting them homework, because they get a bit overwhelmed with that, let's not have any homework, like nothing to do outside of class. You just have to turn up for that 1 half-an-hour session a week. Right? That's possible. You can do half an hour a week. Yeah, fantastic. So just agree to do that. And then when it comes to what you teach in the class, reduce the pace of your class so that you can cover that content, the stuff that they would have done at home for their homework, you're going to do in class time instead. So we might have one class, the first class, let's say it's 2 classes a week for easy maths. The first class of the week, we're going to actually do the lesson slides from Abridge Academy. The second class of the week, we're going to look at the homework workbook for those lesson slides. So basically what they would have done as homework, we're just going to work on together in the next class. It does mean they're going to make progress more slowly, depending on how many classes they're having per week, but it just means that they don't have any pressure outside of class time. So that could be something to suggest if the homework is something they're concerned about. Another option here is to offer them something different. Like, they've said that they don't have the time to sign up for your classes, but ultimately your classes should be saving them time. You're helping them. You want to help them make progress with their school learning. You don't want to be adding more pressure on top of what they're already doing. So it might be that if they're kind of expressing this concern that your classes are going to be too much extra work on top of school, you can say, let's scrap the idea of doing classes on top of school entirely. I'm just going to help you with your homework. We can sit down and work on what you've been doing in school, and we're going to look at your homework together. We're going to pull up resources that you've been using in school time. We're going to do extra role plays and speaking practice around what you've been learning in class. And it's just going to be here to help support you do your schoolwork more efficiently and more quickly. It's going to actually save you time and make sure you're going to make progress more rapidly. So it might be that you're going to take more of that tutoring type approach rather than the direct teaching approach. And you could therefore provide a different kind of style of class that's going to be less pressure on them, not more pressure. Another thing I've done before is run study skills programs. So I've directly taught students how to take notes or how to manage their time more efficiently, or like how to put together a revision schedule for their exams, that kind of thing, which has helped them actually save time, not spend more time on my classes, if that makes sense. And then the final option I put here, this is more like if they say that they've got like a big event coming up, so they can't take classes right now, they're too busy right now, they've got a holiday next week, or it's like school exam season, so the next 2 weeks they're going to be super, super stressed with schoolwork, but then it's the holidays. So you can say to them, okay, great, like I understand the next couple of weeks it's not going to be possible to have classes, but you can still purchase now and we'll schedule the classes for a later date instead. So let's start on January the 1st. And put the date in the diary, like tell them when we're going to start, which is after whatever stress they've currently got going on that's taking up all their time. But encourage them to make that purchase now, so they've kind of locked in the current pricing that you're offering. They've sort of confirmed, and they're definitely in your schedule, so you're not risking selling those class slots to a different student instead. So those are all different options you can propose if they're saying that the issue is they're too busy with schoolwork or homework or extracurriculars or super important exam stress that's going on right at that moment in their kind of outside of your class time life. So that's a few different ideas that might help. Okay, I've talked a lot there. Let's have a look in the chat. Let me know in the chat if any of the ideas have helped, anything you've tried before that's worked or hasn't worked, or anything you're excited to try out of these suggestions. There is more stuff coming, by the way, so I know we're already up to the hour, but if you guys can stick around a little bit longer, we've got some more things that's going to help kind of wrap things up. Sorry, I know I talk too much. Okay, Katie's saying, I've had lots of students in this season reduce classes, but their reasoning is being too busy. Yeah, I think that's a real big challenge. Hopefully some of these ideas might help a bit with that. I've had it this past week because it's the Chinese New Year, sorry, not Chinese New Year, Chinese National Week holiday, Golden Week holiday. So some students are literally off traveling, so they're not like sitting around having class. So I've had some students just temporarily reduce their classes this past week. Like, I say a few students, like half my classes were just vanished this week, which was actually not that bad because I was busy doing this bootcamp for you guys, so I didn't stress too much. But yeah, sometimes for a short period of time, students are busy with other things, but then they come back and that's fine. As long as they're already in my diary for when they're back from the holiday or whatever, then I'm kind of happy with it. But yeah, if it's like over a whole season, like the whole school semester or something, then you might want to start considering some of these other things in terms of how you can keep supporting them. And it might just be that they can't find the time to have, multiple classes a week, and that's fine. But yeah, that can be a real challenge. Alice is saying, what I've run across is Cambly parents. I haven't taught Cambly in a long time. Okay. They'll say they can get classes for $6 for half an hour. Is that what Cambly is charging? That's ridiculously cheap. No way. How much does Cambly pay teachers? It's like $5 per half hour they're paying the teacher. Can't believe they make any money on that. Huh. Wow. Yeah. If you have parents who say that there's a cheaper option, going back to our previous slides about what to do about pricing, if they're saying the price is too expensive, they can get classes on Cambly or some other platform or different teachers offering classes at $6 per class, then sometimes it's about just communicating your value. Okay, yes, they could sign up for classes with Cambly at $6, but that Cambly class is not, customized around what they need. That Cambly class is not using the specific materials. That Cambly class is not with you and the things that make you unique and special. So it might just be a matter of trying to communicate your value a bit more clearly, or it could be one of these kind of slight pricing negotiation type approaches that might help. Honestly, though, I always kind of recommend talking to parents a bit before the trial class to get an idea of whether your pricing is going to be a decent fit as well, because if their budget was always just $6 and you're never going to be able to offer something at that price, it's kind of a waste of your time offering the trial class in the first place, if that makes sense. So that kind of comes back to what we talked about in our first session about kind of vetting leads, and we call this qualifying leads, by the way, is a term that's often used. So like making sure that they are a good fit in terms of being able to afford your classes and within your niche, working towards goals that you can actually help them achieve, that kind of thing. But yeah, that can be a bit of a challenge. I also have a set of twins at one class, but everything is 2 times. Like they want to have classes together. I mean, if they're the same level, that can kind of work. That's why I kind of come into this option here about cheaper class format, like group classes. I would treat that kind of like a group class. So you could have the 2 students in the class, but and they're paying you for that class time. Again, it's kind of up to you to negotiate with them as to how well that's going to work. But yeah, that's interesting. I've not had twins before. Angel saying, really awesome ideas. Thank you. I'm glad this helped. Really appreciate that. Alison saying, Katie, for the different offer, homework support, etc., do you charge the same amount per 25 minutes? Personally, yes. That's kind of, if I'm gonna help them, because in reality, I'm thinking my time, for me personally, it takes me just as much time to teach a direct class using like Age Academy lessons, which are already pre-made because I spent ages making all of them. I may as well use that curriculum that's already pre-made. It takes me the same amount of effort as teaching a homework help class where this kid's going to turn up with their homework. Like for me, it's the same amount of effort. I know sometimes some teachers will offer different prices for different kinds of things. So if you're having to do things that are much more customized or require a lot of prep work for you outside of class time, you might be wanting to charge a higher rate for that compared to something like homework support where they're going to bring along the work for you to do with them. But yeah, I've had students in the past. I had one kid who stuck with me for a couple of years, and at first we were doing like formal classes, and then she started saying like, "Oh, I can't make it this week, teacher. Sorry, I'm too busy. I got too much homework. This kind of thing." So I spoke to the mom. I was like, "I'm really worried that she's struggling a bit with all her homework and things at school. Maybe rather than me teaching her loads of more stuff, can I help her out with some of that schoolwork and help make it a bit easier for her? Because I know she's struggling with academic English in class, and that's probably why she's struggling with the homework. So maybe we work through these things together. She'll be able to get that done more efficiently. She'll be learning at the same time, and it's not going to be adding any extra pressure." And yeah, they were happy to continue paying the same price they paid me previously, but just for this sort of homework help. So I'm rambling a lot. Yeah, I keep the price the same, basically. But it's up to you. You can adjust your pricing as you wish. Tanya's saying Cambly subscription-based model become quite expensive for students. Cambly Kids is more expensive. $6 per 30 minutes is closer to what the tutor gets paid. Yeah, I wonder if some of those parents, they might have researched what Cambly pays teachers, and then they're trying to get you to earn that for working for them privately, despite the fact that working for a company is very different for independent teaching. Like, there's a reason that companies charge more than what they pay the teacher. There's a whole bunch of other stuff the company is doing outside of the class time, like creating all their teaching materials and the whole teaching platform and doing all the marketing, the advertising, the customer support and all that kind of stuff, right? And now as an independent teacher, you're having to do all of that. So you definitely need to be charging more than what you would earn just with a company. Katie's saying, also look for red flags. If the first question for you is about price, they probably won't like your prices. I absolutely agree with this. And that's actually, as I think I mentioned before, I've got like over 100 unread messages in my Shougham Short inbox, which is really bad. And I probably should go through them anyway. But quite a lot of those are just people saying, "Hi, teacher, how much is a class?" So I haven't even bothered replying because I'm like, if they're asking the first question is how much is a class, then I'm too expensive, sorry. So absolutely, this is one of those things we talked about in session 1 about vetting those leads and making sure that they're going to be suitable for you, and that you're able to help them. I would say for me personally, I tend to target students who are at sort of private schools or international schools or they've got no goals of studying abroad, that kind of market. So they tend to be kind of high income and able to pay good money for classes. Depends on who you're targeting as to what their kind of price range is going to be. Okay, we've gone a bit off topic here. So we're talking here about what to do depending on what they come back with following that message you sent after class. The final kind of key point I want to highlight here, though, when it comes to these follow-up strategies, is this idea of applying a little bit of pressure to encourage them to actually respond. Sometimes when you send a message, if there's no sense of urgency, the parent will think, "I'll get back to that this weekend when I have more time," or "I'll get back to that next week once I've checked my credit card statement. I'll get back to that next month once we put together the class schedule, like school schedule and things for this semester." And then next week or next month comes around and they've long forgotten about you. So one thing I would really recommend doing in your follow-ups, don't be super, super pressured because that's just going to scare people away. But once they start gently replying, that's when you start to apply a little bit of gentle pressure. And there's 2 key things that really help in terms of sales, at least in my experience. The first is this idea of scarcity. Scarcity means there's a limited number of spaces. And the second is the idea of urgency, some kind of time limit. So in terms of giving a sense of scarcity, you can mention things like, "I've only got 2 places left in the group. So if you want to join the group class, I'd really love to have your child join us, but there's only 2 places left. I really encourage you to sign up soon." Similarly, for one-on-one classes, my schedule is filling up. So I've only got 5 class slots available left per week. And I know you really wanted that time on Friday afternoons. Are you still interested? So making it really clear and sort of emphasizing that scarcity can help them decide to make that decision now rather than putting off the decision until later. Similar kind of idea, this idea of urgency, that they need to make this time limit. There's some time limit on making that decision. So for example, it's quite easy to do with groups because you can say the group starts on Monday, okay? If you want to join the group program, you need to have signed up before Monday because that's the final deadline because you can't join after the rest of the group has started. So a specific date that you could have as a sort of deadline. Another thing you might have, and this kind of works if it's coming towards like the end of a year, perhaps, and you know that in the new year you're going to be reevaluating your pricing. You could say to them, "I am going to be putting my prices up soon. So if you want to purchase that class package that I recommended to you at the current price that I proposed, I can only hold that price for the next few days. So please let me know if you're still interested. If that doesn't work for you, let's talk about it now. And maybe I can propose a smaller class package or something that's going to work better." So it's just encouraging them to make that decision a little bit quicker. Again, be careful with this because if you apply too much pressure, it puts them off and they just run away. But if you don't apply any pressure, then there's no urgency for them to make a decision. So it's a bit of a balance. I usually wait until I've had a slight response before I put on the pressure like this. And also make sure you're not lying with this, by the way. Like, don't say my class slots are all filling up if they can see on your calendar that the entire schedule is empty, because they'll know you're lying, and that just doesn't come across very genuine. Similarly, if your prices are going to go up, and in reality, 6 months' time, they look to buy the next class package and it's the same price as before. Yeah, so just make sure you're being honest, but if you've got opportunities to put a little bit of pressure on like this, go for it, because it can help. Okay, I'm going to move quickly on because I know there's a lot to get through. On that point of applying pressure, though, avoid some kind of ultimatum. Like, don't say you have to sign up now or else. Otherwise, you're never going to have classes with me, because that's when the pressure gets too high, or you're kind of cutting yourself a deadline by which you can no longer follow up because you've kind of cut them off. So try and give them some kind of a choice of options. Like, for example, you can either join the group starting on Monday, or unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until next month. So you've still got the option to wait till next month. You're not saying that there's this pressure they have to sign up now, but it's that gentle pressure. It's the idea of gentle pressure. And that way, still, if they miss the opportunity to join that group on Monday and they haven't replied back by then, you can still follow up again a month later and say, oh, I know you're interested in my group classes. You were unable to join the one last month. I've got a few spaces left in the one coming next month. Are you still interested? So it gives you that opportunity to follow up. Similarly, next kind of example here. Would you like to purchase this week? Otherwise, the pricing is going up soon. The new price, this, as I say, only really works when it's set times of year where your pricing is likely to be going up. As you say, otherwise, like on the 1st of January, my new price is going to be $30 per class. It's going up by $2, something like that. And it's kind of a little bit of encouragement of making that purchase now. And as I mentioned earlier, ask to follow up with them. So if they say, I'm sorry, we can't join the group class this month, say, oh, no problem, I totally understand. Would you be interested perhaps in joining next month? Can I keep in touch with you? And then normally you're going to say yes. I've very rarely heard people saying no, never. Like they're happy to keep in touch as long as they're interested in you as a teacher. Okay. So hopefully that gave you some ideas. We talked about a lot in today's session. I know I chatted and there's a bit of monologuing a bit there, sorry. But hopefully that gave you a lot of ideas in terms of what to send immediately after the trial class, and then what to do in terms of follow-ups later on if either they express some kind of concern about the pricing or about their schedule, that kind of thing, or if they don't respond at all, how to follow up and sort of keep in touch with them and put a little bit of gentle pressure on to try and get them to make that kind of decision. So to summarize, we talked about immediately after class, send them some kind of feedback. Do check out those feedback templates. They're listed underneath the Able Academy trial class slides. It's all pre-done for you, so it takes like 5 minutes max to complete the whole thing. And that really professional, detailed feedback has genuinely helped me convert new students into paying students from trial classes. So yeah, send them that feedback and learning plan. Send them the payment link. As I mentioned, I show this at the end of the trial class. I show them how to make a purchase on the Super Teacher website, how to sign up for my classes. But make sure you still remember to actually send it to them so they actually click and buy. And try and make that payment link as direct as possible. Don't just send them to your generic profile. Send them to the specific thing you want them to purchase. And you want to be doing this within like 10 minutes at the end of the class. All of this you want to send through to them straight away. Then we said if they don't convert straight away, follow up. Apply some kind of gentle pressure. Ask them if they've got any questions. If they express any concerns about the pricing, about being busy, all these kind of things. Answer those, give them some different options, be flexible. Gently apply some pressure to encourage them to make that decision. And always think of this idea of no as not yet. Ask for the opportunity to follow up with them later. Maybe even suggest a suitable time that you're going to follow up, like, oh, next month when I'm doing the next group program, that kind of an option. Or next semester, if you know that they're busy this semester, they've said there's definitely not going to be an option in the short term. Kind of ask them for permission to follow up and find a more suitable time for classes in the future. Okay, I'm rambling. I hope that gave you some thoughts and some ideas on what to work on. I know today was a bit random and quite a lot of different stuff. We're kind of wrapping up stuff at the end of this bootcamp. Please do let me know in the chat, what was your key take-home idea from today's session or from the bootcamp in general? And also, if you've got any questions at all, I'm going to get to the questions now in the chat. So any questions at all, please pop them in the chat and I'll get to those in just a moment. So what was your key take-home idea? And do you have any questions or anything you would like to talk about before we finish up this bootcamp? On that note, by the way, thank you so much for joining the bootcamp. I hope you guys have found this helpful. I've really appreciated it. I've had several teachers email me with feedback and thanking me for what they've learned in the session, which I really, really appreciate. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining and your wonderful feedback. It's been super, super nice. I always love to hear from teachers. So yeah, do let me know what you found helpful and what you've learned from this. And we're going to very quickly, while you guys are putting your questions or comments in the chat, just remind you this was session 3 of the bootcamp. If you've missed the earlier sessions, the replays are all on the same YouTube channel. So just click through to the YouTube channel and you can see the replays under the lives section. It's all in the playlist. If you're watching through the link that I sent on the email link, it's probably in the playlist on the right-hand side right now. I sent you a link to the video within the playlist. So you can see the replays of anything you've missed if you need to go back or if you want to review it anytime. Talked about how to find the right kind of students, what to do before the trial class to make sure they're good students, good fit for you. Trial classes that actually sell, what to actually do in the trial class itself. And then today was all about following up what to do after the trial class to help make that conversion. And of course, if you register at the link below, you also get a whole bunch of free stuff. I know I've shown you these in quite some detail already, but we've got the free placement test, free teaching materials for your trial classes, free certificate templates to send them after the class, and that really detailed feedback and learning plan template that we worked through today. Those are customized for every trial class. So all of these freebies, do register at the link below. It's on the Abridge Academy website. I'm just going to put it in the chat as well in case anyone's missing it. Go to abridgeacademy.com. At abridgeacademy.com, register for the free tier and you get access to all of this free stuff. The link is also in the description. abridgeacademy.com. I've also got another quick request while you guys are commenting. I'm going to get to questions in a moment. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please do like and follow because it really helps these videos reach more amazing teachers like you in the algorithm and all that kind of good stuff. So really appreciate your support. Thank you. Right, questions. Let's have a look. Teresa's got a thumbs up. Thank you. Great. Grant saying I got sidetracked. Oh no, you're just tuning in. No worries. You can zip back to earlier on and then watch the replay. No worries. You missed lots, so you definitely want to watch back the replay. We covered a lot of stuff. You're saying amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanya. Teresa's saying new ideas about flexible pricing options and how to do follow up. Awesome. I'm glad this helped you because I think when I was first starting out, I was always too nervous, I guess, to engage with what feels like a bit of a negotiation. And I think by proposing something that's not just, oh yeah, I'll give you a discount. What kind of alternatives you can offer that's kind of negotiating, but is in a way that's not going to financially affect the amount you earn, but is being supportive of the parents and their situation. So yeah, I think being flexible in terms of the pricing and like things like the scheduling and different kind of strategies you can use that mean you still earn what you're worth, but are able to offer support that's going to help fit them with their needs. So hopefully this has been helpful. Got a few more people tuning in late. No worries, Sujata. Thank you for joining us. You can zip back to the beginning and watch the replay. And if you missed any of the other sessions as well, you can go back to the playlist on YouTube. There's a YouTube playlist on this account, and you can see all of the sessions listed there for you to catch up. Or if you register at the link below, you get sent an email with the direct links to all of the sessions for you to watch the replays. Andrew and Jim is saying, thank you. I really like the sorry it's too expensive and I'm busy suggestions. I'm glad those helped. Fantastic. Hope you took a screenshot of them to come back to later or sit back and watch the replay if you want to make notes of those because it's often when you're put on the spot sometimes with the parent, it's hard to know what to respond with. So I hope that gave you some ideas of different thoughts. So thank you for 3 lovely sessions. Very informative. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I know you joined all of 3 sessions live, so I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Ivy's saying, my takeaway is there's always a right way to reply and be ready for all kinds of parents' requests and scenarios. Exactly, yeah. So have a plan in place for what to do if they don't respond or if they respond with specific concerns about things like the pricing. Make sure you've got a plan for that because it's going to help kind of make sure you can therefore communicate them more quickly. That reply. If you've already got a plan in place, it's very easy to quickly respond back with an alternative option that's going to work well for them while they're still sitting there messaging you and ready to kind of make that decision. Grant saying, my 2 cents on following up, make it about the student. Don't ask what the parents think. Ask if their child enjoyed it and have positive things ready to say. Exactly, yeah. So you want to make sure you emphasize that what you enjoy teaching the child. Hopefully you've built a really good rapport with them in the trial class. So you're able to sort of talk about what you loved about teaching with them, why you'd love to keep teaching more classes to them. I showed that a little bit in the feedback example. I'm not sure you've had a chance to see that yet, Grant, because I know you joined us a little bit late. But when in that feedback form, I put in a little personal comment about, how much I enjoy teaching the child, and ideally with some more personal anecdotes and specific insights from the class if you can. And yeah, don't ask the parents what they thought. Tell them how to make the purchase, and tell them how much you love teaching their child, and hopefully the kid is going to be just as enthusiastic too. Can't say, I'm sure you had a lot more insight than what I'm giving. No worries, Grant. Do have a zip back and have a watch some of the ideas, because we talked a lot about the follow-ups and what to do if they kind of ghost you, or they express concerns about pricing and things like that. I know we actually chatted before about your own strategies in terms of like doing group programs and that kind of thing, which is super interesting. So some of this you're probably quite familiar with, but always worth a watch in case there's anything useful. Michelle saying 3 sessions were fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that helped. Awesome. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap up here. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I do really, really appreciate it. I hope you found all of these sessions helpful. And I know the last little bit of promo, do check out the link if you want to get those free teaching materials, all that kind of stuff, to help you with your trial classes. But yeah, ultimately, thank you for joining us. I really hope this, trial classes are going to be successful going forward. Let me know as well. Drop me an email. I'd love to hear how this has helped you. Love to hear if you get some students from these results, from these suggestions. Let me know if it's helped you, because it's always so helpful to get feedback and insights from teachers as well. I know sometimes, like teaching online, it's very easy to feel quite kind of isolated. I'm just sat here in my living room talking to students and talking to teachers, but it's really helpful to get kind of feedback from you guys in terms of what's worked well for you, and I always love to hear about your successes as well. Okay, enough rambling for me. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, weekend now. It's now the weekend, okay? Friday is now over, in my opinion, so it is now the weekend. So have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and good luck with your trial.